Greetings, I'm Chef Edouardo Jordan. When we think about Seattle, we think about sockeye salmon, breathtaking hiking trails, the bounty of apples, wine regions, and handmade pasta. We often think about the bounty of cherries, foraging for mushrooms, and wild berries, to the magnificent dairy farmers producing world-class cheeses. But what we often overlook is our beautiful minority-owned restaurants that are sprinkled around Seattle, which are the fabric of our communities. Here in Seattle, without these establishments, which bring so much character to our neighborhoods, Seattle will be a city without soul. In 2020, the Soul of Seattle was created to recognize and support restaurants, shops, and cafes by Black business owners. With our inaugural event, we raised over $260,000 to support the businesses that create the fabric of our community, with proceeds going to organizations that empower, support, and engage with youth of color. We are excited to continue with our second annual, now virtual, Soul of Seattle, recognizing the chefs and restaurants that are the heart of our communities. This year, we have partnered with Northwest Harvest to bring Soul of Seattle to life, an organization whose goal is to end food insecurities in the state of Washington by bringing accessible, nutritious food and promoting good health in equitable ways. Over the course of the next 4 Fridays, we will showcase some of the most amazing chefs through cooking demonstration, panel discussions, dinners, and a DJ dance party filled with giveaways, auctions, and more. This year's event is focused on fully supporting the faces behind the Soul of Seattle, as a large portion of your contributions will go directly to our participating Black chefs and Black-owned restaurants. This year, we are excited to announce proceeds from Soul of Seattle will benefit MUST, mentoring urban students and teens, a local nonprofit dedicated to serve as a positive catalyst. With your support, we will be giving directly back to our community and help those who need our greatest support during this time of need. I am fully committed to supporting my industry, my community, and my fellow Black small business owners. So please join me in celebrating the Soul of Seattle. Without further ado, the 2021 Soul of Seattle calendar of events. Good evening, everyone. I am Chef Edouardo Jordan, the founder of the Soul of Seattle. I just want to give a little bit of housekeeping note. If you are not on mute, please help us out and put yourself on mute so we don't get any feedback, first of all. Now, welcome to the second annual, now virtual Soul of Seattle. This evening's stellar panel is our second in a series of events that we have programmed throughout this month. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us this evening. First, before we start, I want to give a big thank you to our key sponsors who have helped support our series of events: the Satterberg Foundation, the Schultz Family Foundation, BECU, and Amazon. And thank you to all of our contributing sponsors who help make our events and programming possible. Please visit our website to view them all. Tonight's panel is sponsored by Wines of Washington. This is Washington Wine Commission, who's raising awareness and demand for Washington state wine through marketing and education while supporting viticulture and enology research that drives us to grow the industry. And thank you again to everyone at home for tuning in this evening. Your support is gonna help so many amazing chefs in our city, their restaurants, and more importantly, and most importantly, I should say, the BIPOC community here in Seattle, Washington. When I started the Soul of Seattle in 2019, I wanted to create a fundraiser that directly supports and impacts youth of color here in Seattle. So I'm excited to announce the 2021 beneficiary organization is MUST, mentoring urban students and teens. And I would like to take a minute right now to introduce you to the Executive Director, Kelvin Washington Jr. of MUST.
My name is Kelvin Washington Jr. I'm the Executive Director of Mentoring Urban Students and Teens. Most people know it as MUST. The mission of MUST is very unique. We have a 3-layer system. It starts off with the youth starting off in the 8th grade, entering the 9th grade. We call that the mentee. The mentee is a young African-American man who's in the Seattle Public Schools who's having a difficult time navigating life. The next layer is the mentor, an African-American male that is in college who wants to give back to the community and help with these young men that are in high school. Our 3rd layer of our model is the coach. Every mentor has a professional coach who is dialed into the reality of what they want to be beyond the work that they're doing now. Some want to be doctors, we connect them with a coach who's a doctor. Others that want to be teachers, we connect them with teachers. Our coaches really allow us to live out our mission. Our mission here at MUST is to develop young black men from the hardest soil. My personal mission is simple: serving to save. I truly believe my mission and MUST mission combined together can truly impact the greater Seattle, not only for now, but for years to come. The soul of Seattle to MUST is hope. Every week we take our guys out to eat. We understand that community is based around the things that we put in our body and the time that we share with each other. So working with the soul of Seattle is a blessing because it lets us remind our youth the importance of food, the things that they put in their body, and that is essential to being who they are. The funds from the soul of Seattle will impact MUST not only for the next year, but for the next 4 years. It will allow us to grow 4 new cohorts in the Seattle Public Schools and the Rainier Valley community. My name is Kelvin Washington Jr., and I am the soul of Seattle.
Thank you, Kelvin. Now, you guys at home who are viewing this evening, you have so many ways to support our amazing initiative throughout the month. From tuning in this evening, as you have done, to direct donations, you can go to our website, and to also bidding on some outstanding auction items that we have listed on our website this evening. So click on the website, theseattlesoul.com, and go to the auction item link, and then you can find out more information. But to give you more details about our auction, here's Fred, our auctioneer, to tell you a little bit more about our auction.
Hey everyone, auctioneer Fred Northup Jr. back with you with the Soul of Seattle, announcing some amazing auction items for you folks tuning in. The Soul of Seattle will have a new auction and new items every week, giving you a chance to bid and win and change lives weekly from now until February 26th. Now, today, I've got exciting news for you Seahawks fans. This week, we are offering an exclusive 2021 Seattle Seahawks Reserve Club experience for 4, including a Seahawks swag bucket featuring all the clothing you need to be decked out during your game. And if you're fiending for some more good food, we are offering dinner for 2 at award-winning restaurant The Herb Farm. Featuring an astoundingly good 9-course meal accompanied with wine pairings, the Herb Farm is sure to impress you with its mouth-watering food and whimsical charm. Get your bid in before 9 p.m. this evening and head on over to the Soul of Seattle's page below to see what else they have this week, including a Joy-Con Nintendo Switch, 2 more tickets from Alaska Airlines anywhere they fly, and so much more. Also, a quick reminder, you can make a 100% tax-deductible donation without even bidding. Just go to theseattlesoul.com and donate right now. All proceeds go straight to Black-owned businesses and Seattle local nonprofit mentoring urban students and teens, better known as MUST. Thank you for being here. Thank you for changing lives with us, and keep on bidding.
Thank you, Fred. So I think we got all the hard part out of the way now. It's now time for the fun. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Angela Poe Russell from King 5 to introduce and welcome our panelists for this evening.
Well, thanks, Eduardo. You know, I've been a journalist for well over 20 years in various parts of the country, from DC to Philadelphia to here in Seattle. And while I've certainly interviewed a lot of notable people, the ones who always stand out are those who don't necessarily have a public platform every day, but are impacting communities through their talent and hard work. And that's why I'm so excited about tonight. You are going to hear stories perhaps you've never heard from award-winning culinary culinarians blazing trails all across our country. Now it's my honor to introduce our award-winning panelists. Marcus Samuelsson is an award-winning chef, restaurateur, cookbook author, philanthropist, and food activist. Samuelsson was the youngest person ever to receive a 3-star restaurant review from the New York Times. In 2003, he was named Best Chef New York City by the James Beard Foundation. His acclaimed Red Rooster Harlem, which opened in December of 2010, celebrates the roots of American cuisine in one of New York City's liveliest and most culturally rich neighborhoods. Chef Samuelsson has been featured on Iron Chef, Chopped All-Stars, Top Chef Masters, 24-Hour Restaurant Battle, The Martha Stewart Show, The Today Show, and his own television shows. Next up is Eric Adjepong. Chef Adjepong was a finalist on season 16 of Bravo's Top Chef and a contestant on season 17 of Top Chef All-Stars, where he earned consistent acclaim from judges and popularity among viewers. As a first-generation Ghanaian American born and raised in New York City, Eric sources the flavors and influences in his cooking from many of the West African dishes that he grew up eating. Mashama Bailey is the award-winning executive chef and partner of the critically acclaimed The Gray, set in a former Greyhound bus terminal in Savannah, Georgia, as well as the all-day counterpart, The Gray Market. Since opening in December of 2014, The Gray itself has earned a number of accolades, including being named a Food and Wine Restaurant of the Year and one of Time Magazine's Greatest Places of 2018. And now, Chef Edouardo Jordan. Well, he's repping my home state. He's from St. Petersburg, Florida. Jordan's ambition brought him to renowned restaurants such as the French Laundry, Per Se, and Lincoln Ristorante. Edouardo opened the doors to his first restaurant, Solare, in June of 2015. Edouardo is a 2-time James Beard Award-winning chef for Best Chef Northwest and Best New Restaurant for June Baby. Kwame Onwuachi is a James Beard Award-winning chef and author of Notes from a Young Black Chef. He was born on Long Island and raised in New York City, Nigeria, and Louisiana. Onwuachi trained at the Culinary Institute of America and, get this, opened 5 restaurants before turning 30, including the groundbreaking Afro-Caribbean restaurant Kith Kin. A former Top Chef contestant, he has been named one of Food and Wine's best new chefs. And last but not least, Shakirah Simley, the daughter of a social worker and a granddaughter of a Black Panther. Miss Simley was born in the South Bronx and raised in Harlem, New York. She is a seasoned organizer and community development strategist with over 15 years of experience working on social justice and equity policy initiatives. Miss Simley was a U.S. Fulbright Scholar to Italy for anthropological study. A big thank you to all of our participants tonight. Here's Marcus.
All right, cooking from the rice. This recipe is beautiful and delicious. Grilled piri-piri shrimp with a watermelon salad. This is inspired by the amazing Davida Davison from Detroit, from the Food Lab. She's a food activist. She's rooted in African-American cooking. And when I wanted to share stories from Black food in America, Davida's was on the top of that list. So I have a little bit of papaya and watermelon. That's the base of the salad. We got some shrimp that we marinated in a traditional piri-piri, which piri-piri you find throughout Southern Africa, South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, everywhere. I'm gonna start with making this tomato vinaigrette. So I charred tomatoes just to make them really nice and juicy. And this is an untraditional way of making a vinaigrette, but I love it because the acid of the tomatoes comes out really, really well. And we grilled them. And since we're grilling the shrimp, this works well together. So I got tomato juice from the charred tomatoes, roasted pumpkin seeds, raw onion. I'm just gonna let this sit. Char the tomato up, add it into this vin, and it's gonna tie and really make this watermelon and papaya really nice and juicy. We're just gonna toss that together. Some salt. I'm gonna add in some scallions as well, and just toss in my papaya and watermelon. Just cube them up, some fresh herbs. And this is a delicious salad by itself, just that. Okay, so that's sitting over there, hanging out. I'm gonna add in my shrimp to the pan. The way I like to cook seafood, I mix butter and oil. The oil is there for the heat, the butter is there for the flavor. That's what's so great with piri piri. It can be the marinade, it can be the sauce, just beautiful chilies, olive oil. And shrimp you want to cook quite fast. You want them to be nice and crispy on the outside and not overcooked. And I love to add in citrus when I cook. All my seafood gets this perfect, beautiful perfume that you want. As we're waiting for the shrimp to cook, I'm just gonna chop up the arugula. And I love that whole blend of the sort of the spiciness that the arugula gives. Just gonna chop some up, and then I'm gonna leave some raw. Just toss this in. This is tomato vinaigrette, pumpkin seeds, it's all textures, right? And you wanna work fast now. If you let it sit too long, it's all gonna go soggy. That's why you gotta work really, really fast. I'm gonna turn my shrimp. By the time I'm done turning all these like 15 or so shrimp, they're all cooked and done. That's that quick. Just gonna squeeze in a little more citrus juice, finish it with some salt, some fresh chopped herbs. When you cook seafood, you can never have enough fresh herbs and citrus around. All right, so this is ready. It smells absolutely amazing. Look at that. So I'm just gonna plate up. Look at this bag of pumpkin seed, charred tomatoes. This is heaven. This is really, really nice. You serve that at your next dinner party, I guarantee you, your friends will be so happy. I definitely recommend you contact Rita Davison, our food lab in Detroit. Great food and activism is everywhere. It's not something that is in New York or San Francisco, it's all over the country. I'm just gonna finish with just a touch more of citrus juice. This is my grilled shrimp piri piri with a papaya watermelon salad. Super delicious, easy to do, and so refreshing. Keep cooking from the rise. It's really good. Well good.
All right. I want to start with saying congrats to Edouardo and the whole team. I know that it takes a whole village to just run a restaurant, but to also on top of that, put this together, you really inspire us, Edouardo. And the other thing that I have to mention is that thank you for the Black History content that you and the restaurant and the team put together. It inspires us all. I was speaking this morning with Tavel Bristol Joseph in Austin, and we were all referencing what is Edouardo's going to put up today? And for us, for both me and Tavel, that's not born in America, we learned Black history through your content. You know, we didn't learn this in school. So maybe Eric can relate to that as well. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
This is truly a celebration. This is amazing on so many levels. And this is one of the things that I love about America. You can go through the toughest time, the toughest year, but at the same time, you can have the most amazing experiences. To have this all-star panel and collection of great Black culinarians at this moment, after I had the toughest year ever in the restaurant business, is pretty amazing. So thank you, Edouardo and team, for setting the table. We're really grateful to be here.
Yes.
So, we already went through the amazing introductions, but we have a couple of more things that we have to kind of knock out. Mashama just launched a book.
Yay.
Mashama just launched a book. So we got to start there. Mashama, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's a book, it's going to be there. It's going to be out there. And, there was a point I was being dragged through the process and I had to kind of take the reins, and I feel good about it. And, my mom read the book and she feels good about it, and that's good for me. That's all I need.
Mom liked it?
Mom liked it.
Shut it down. I
like everything. And what she don't like, she makes sure she tell me she don't like. So I'm good. I'm really good.
All right. And Mashama, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey to Savannah? Like, how do you leave New York for somewhere else? Like, what else is there?
I know. There's not, there's not much else out there, but My mom is from Georgia. I actually went to grade school in Georgia. I went to grade school in Savannah, Georgia. So it wasn't that far of a leap for me. I thought I wanted to be back south. My mom and dad, they built their careers in New York City. I grew up in New York City. And, there was a time where my mom's family needed her and she moved back to Georgia. Yeah. And that was an important decision for them. And I was still in New York then. I was a grown up. I had my own apartment. I just really started cooking. I would switch from social work to cooking. So I was really sort of deep into it. And I wanted to stay. I was, in my 20s. And so they've been down here for quite a while. And when I was looking to relocate, when I was feeling like, New York was enough and I wasn't sure how far I was going to get there, there was definitely like a line for me in New York City. And I knew that I was approaching it. I started to look at other places, but it still took another few years after I decided to move south to actually come south.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And keeping it with ladies first, so we got to hold Kwame and Eric and Eduardo back for one more second. Shakirah. How many times are people saying Shakirah without referencing the song? Does that happen or not?
It's a daily, if not hourly, occurrence, and followed up by if I belly dance, which I don't, but I can do it.
Whoa. It's the dance party though. Afterwards, you can belly dance. Right?
Afterward, yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, and you're also a New Yorker, Harlemite. Grew up right across the street from an iconic jazz bar, St. Nick, and then you came out to the West Coast, like Eduardo, to San Francisco. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I came west to focus on my food justice advocacy. I traded in my pizza and bagels for tacos and avocado. I still miss that, but we're a little crunchy granola here in San Francisco, but been here for 13 years and worked by my own food business. I'd like to say I'm a recovering artisan. I can bench press like 80 pounds of pears. So maybe after the show we can test that. But running my own small business, working in kitchens, and supporting Black and brown food security here in the Bay Area for the past 15 years. But pivoted my way from community justice and politics into public service, and now serving as the director for the Office of Racial Equity for the City and County of San Francisco. But still, working on food, making sure our folks are nourished and fed, and that we're not forgetting our Black food businesses as well.
The lineage of food and activism, particularly around African-American women, has always been there. One of the most amazing things that Hussein and I worked on when we did the Rise was the pluralistic, many different channels of how Black people has contributed to American food. So people like Leah Chase was an activist and an advocate at the same time, or with so many, particularly African-American women that really did both. Lyndon B. Johnson, he did not trust anyone else but his Black chef when he gave, really started thinking about the Vote Act, for example. So Black people has been there and honestly linked with food and activism constantly. And Karen Washington, coming from the Bronx, the Kwame knows about, has obviously been an activist in food space constantly. And that, I think, is an amazing moment right now. Through technology, through advancement, there's so many different roles in this field. Kwame, you're in LA, you're in New York, where are you?
I'm in LA right now. I'm heading back to New York in a couple days.
Nice. How was 20? Like everybody talks about the year of the pivot.
Yeah.
We're all chefs, we all work with food, but how was it emotionally, and how did you change up this year to participate and be part of it?
I think this year, obviously it was extremely difficult for everyone, but it also allowed many people to hit a reset button. I had to sit down for the first time in a long time. I couldn't travel anywhere. We were still figuring things out in the beginning. So whenever the world opened back up, in a small way, you know, to some sort of normalcy, I wasn't willing to sacrifice my happiness for anything because I finally got to know myself a little bit, you know. And I think that was the beautiful part of the pandemic, was I was always on the go. I was, you know, going to this city, going to that city, you know, doing an event, speaking over here. And it was just like, okay, sit down for a little bit and find out what you really want to do, you know? So I ended up, you know, leaving my restaurant to open up my own, you know, and start my own hospitality group and a media company. And it was about having control over your narrative in every single aspect. A lot of times, you know, Black creatives aren't really given their rightful due, you know, and unless you have ownership over that, then you can really, really make an impact and then inspire other people to strive for that.
Amazing. And I do think also when you think, we have to think about the privileges of us being here, right? Think about how many Black chefs that have cooked anonymously and put in the hours, but no one really cared what they had to say, right? So yet, it helped me during 20 to finish the rise, but also constantly think about on the shoulder that we stand on this moment, right? Because Black excellence and cooking and American food has always been there. It's just basically because of the last maybe 15 to 20 to 10 to 5 years, depending on what era, people actually cared of how we contributed. And that's the highest level of privilege. So it also helps us to move forward and be able to show our art at the highest level. Eric, tell us about what does modern West African food look like? What does it taste like? How can we experience it in Washington, D.C.?
It's really just a combination of using the ingredients that's just so indigenous to the space and to the region specifically, and the diaspora that kind of grows out from it. So things like peanuts, things like ginger, garlic, habaneros, cassava, yuca, like these are things that are just synonymous throughout the diaspora that we all use. So I think just trying to find different ways, imaginative ways, we've all been able to do that in some regard, which is really cool because it's inspiring, you know, to see Chef Mashama or Chef Edouardo or Kwame come up with the dish, and you know, you can see the lineage, you can see the history, you can see the stories within that. So that, I think that right there is what modern West African food is all about. It's been established. You know, we have so many staples as far as like fufu and jollof and things like that. So there's those, I guess, the genesis, but it's always good to kind of have people push forward. And it's really cool to kind of be amongst, you know, that space.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing it, and you're helping us unpack it and understand it. And, you know, for me, one of the most exciting times, this was pre-pandemic, Edouardo said to me, hey, I'm going to Nigeria. He could have gone to Paris. He could have gone to Tokyo, but he's going to Nigeria to study, right? Or West Africa to study. And his next trip was to Haiti and, you know, part of the diaspora, right?
Beautiful.
And when I thought about that, it's like, yes, finally this moment where, yeah, we can go to Italy and we can go to other places. We could go to Stockholm or Copenhagen. But when Chef said, I'm going to Lagos, and knowing that we, you know, Kwame and I have a little brother there in Michael, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably making some of the most exciting food in the world right now in Lagos, right? And what's important is when that narrative, you know, you think about when Stevie went to perform with Fela, it changed American music, right? And now you have the lineage of hip hop and Afrobeat. So Edouardo, like when you went to Africa, when you went to the continent, how was that for you?
First of all, I want to say thank you to Kwame. Like, this is how we all connected. Kwame actually helped me set that up. And now I'm having conversation with everyone else of like, what's going on? Who's here? You know, how can we connect? And I did connect with Michael. We had an amazing experience. You know, just going through the market, seeing the ingredients, seeing the happiness, seeing the struggle. It's totally different than going to France or Italy. We actually reconnect with our roots, our ancestors, and makes me more inspired when I come back to the States of how can I showcase the ingredients, the history, these dishes that are just kind of like deviations of what we're doing now. Like they're the origins, they're the mother. And now we got these, jollof rice is, can easily be said to be red rice. It can be jambalaya. It can be like, all these iterations with respect to it. So it's just so exciting to get back to like what we learned in culinary school. That's kind of the mother sauces. Like we got our roots now. We got our mother sauces, and now we can have fun and learn and teach people now.
Mm-hmm. And I just feel like it's also an incredible moment where our reference points become our own, right? When the reference points, I mean, we all love and studied French food, and it doesn't mean that we don't like Europe at all, but it's also amazing that we have our own reference points, and it just emotionally, it just changes everything. And I think, I've cooked in America for 25 years, but it's never been this moment. And even like Kwame is a house, it's like just not his first name. Mashama is it's a household name. You can say, I'm cooking with Edouardo tonight. I'm going to speak to Mashama. You know what I mean? Like that is a level of new space too. We were cooking, Kwame and I was cooking last week, and we're cooking with my boy Kingsley, and his son, being like 11, came up and said like, I'm not supposed to say this with Chef Marcus being here, but Kwame, you're my boy's favorites. And for me, it's like, that's the highest level of progress, right? Kwame, right? That's really like where we're at right now.
We have a space now, we have the ability to showcase who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, we have a platform, and we have a responsibility, and we can do things like, Edouardo is doing right now, and what you're always doing, what you did with the book is, using that platform to then reach down to others and highlight the people that rose you up to where you're at.
Yeah. Mashama, just being on the dawn of like launching your book, what do you want the takeaway to be? As Black men, we've had a hard journey in the industry, but we're here. As a Black woman, it's a whole other perspective. What do you want the reader's takeaway to be?
Mm-hmm. Just respect the hustle, and understand that we're as capable as anyone else. And there's a point of view that we have. Like, I think that, pulling from your past and understanding your perspective, like we all go through that as creatives, we go through that as chefs, and we have just as much to say as anyone else. We have stories to tell, and we want to tell it through food, and we work hard to do it. And I think that that's really what I want people to take away. Like, I can get down just like the rest of them, and it's like, and it's cohesive, and there's a level of respect that needs to be placed on that. And I think that's really what I want. Hear my voice, hear me, I am woman and I will roar.
You also have an amazing warmth. One of my favorite dinners we ever did at Harlem Eat Up is cooking with you. And the kitchen, we probably had 70-30 women, and majority Black women in our kitchen. And they were so excited at a level that, I'm excited about my crew, but the excitement they had for you, it was just, wow, this is not just a woman working in the kitchen, she's the boss. And that is still one of our favorite nights. And it's just like, I was just so excited watching that, and that level of warmth that you can convey in the space,
Yeah, I'm so happy you brought that up, because I was definitely giving you shade before I did that event. And I don't have any good reason, but one of the wonderful things about you is your warmth, and like going into your space and going into your restaurant and seeing that level of diversity. Like, you don't walk the walk, you walk the walk and you talk the talk, And I think that is so important to see, because then you start to pull up the new pastry chef who is going to sort of like change the narrative, and you pull up the chefs who are going to change the narrative, and you show them a path through like hard work and kindness. And I think like those two things go hand in hand. And in our community, it's so important for us to lead with that, you know, because we have searched for those sort of accolades outside of the community, and we haven't experienced that. So when you come and you're a Black person and you come and work for a Black person, you need that. There's a level of expectation that you are being accepted and you are home. And I think for you in your space, I saw a lot of that. So it was very easy for me to kind of like fall in line, and I was still nervous. I'm always a little nervous when I'm in a new space, but you know, it was a beautiful thing to see. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Shakirah, like you see a lot of chefs out there. Where would you think activism will be will they follow chefs? Like what's the space? Like for me, when I think about food activism, I think about Karen Washington, I think about Miss Leah Chase. Mm-hmm. Is there a path to follow? Is it just activism in general, or is there food activism path to follow? Davida Davison and so on.
So the reason why I love Black folks in food is because we bring our full selves to the kitchen, right? And even if we're climbing up this ladder of broken rungs, we're always bringing folks up with us. And we never forget where we come from. And that in and of itself is a form of advocacy. And, you know, it's no surprise to me, like with the Soul of Seattle, how it has this very social mission, right? That comes from the heart and the love from Black folks. We always take care of our folks. So I don't think that you can, you know, I'm not like, I'm an activist, I'm a Black woman, I'm a director, I'm all in one. And as you talked about, food spaces have always been used by Black people to get our message across and to support our folks. So like right here in San Francisco, in the Western Addition, Fillmore, in Oakland, the Black Panther Party transformed, churches and to feed Black kids, right? To make sure they had a hot breakfast before they went to schools that, you know, were failing them. And they relied on Black cooks and Black owned grocery stores to do that work. Also, can't talk about this work without talking about the work of Black agriculture, Black farmers, right? And folks who, you know, like Fannie Lou Hamer, like she was a farmer before she totally transformed the Democratic Party. So that tradition goes deep. We cannot take those two things apart. And I'm happy to also show that when folks like me who've worked in kitchens and have been in hospitality, when we switch over to politics, I'm bringing y'all with me because I need y'all to have a seat at the table when we're thinking about budgets, when we're thinking about COVID recovery, when we're thinking about who gets the vaccine, when we think about land use, right? And who gets like zoning, right? How many of y'all opening restaurants? Who's the person that you hate? The health inspector and the planning commission, right? So we need more folks on both sides, right? To be like, I see you, I'm bringing my people together. We're gonna work on this together. But Black food has always been about advocacy and nourishing and bringing our folks from the land to our cooks, to our stores. And I'm happy to be part of that legacy and tradition.
What are some websites or Instagram that we should follow, do you think, in activism? Because we follow each other as chefs and pretty up on that. But like, in terms of activism, are there particular spaces that we should, that we should follow?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few spaces right now. A couple of things I want to uplift. Definitely check out the food and agricultural platform through our Movement for Black Lives. Yeah. We're in their 10-point plan. I think start there. There's definitely education. Our Black Food Justice Network. We're thinking about the Detroit Food Security Council with Baba Malik. I'm thinking about the collectress, thinking about Ashton Berry, who's been amazing down in New Orleans and pushing the hospitality and beverage industry. Thinking about the 40 Acres and a Mule project. There's so many different folks who are leveraging their platform, their advocacy, and their food. And I think from now on, I don't think chefs, you can't separate those two from now on. Like you can't open a restaurant. I think customers expect that. They want to see that. It's like, who is this supporting? Who's in your kitchen? Where's your food coming from? So our folks will always ask those questions. There's plenty of stuff out there. Happy to share more with our audience out there. But vote with your fork, vote with your vote, but show up for your folks too. never forget where we came from.
Nice. I think it's an amazing time also in food writing, right? So we have the queens like Dr. Jessica Harris, of course, but Tony Tipton Martin, but also like Mashama's book just came out. You have Clancy Miller just launched For the Culture. I'm really proud to say that Don Davis just started at Bon App. So when I look at the landscape, yet right now, it's a very tough time, but I also see like, because yes, there's Black Chef now, but food writing is also important. There's not another side there to understand what we're doing and understand our narrative and understand that West African ingredients, or even how that should smell. Kwame and I talked a lot about smell of food, and that if you don't have a receiver on the other side, then it doesn't work. So I do think it is an amazing time. And Edouardo, I feel like this Soul of Seattle is really, it's not just a passion project, but it's so rooted when you look at those videos and how long you worked on it, so rooted and deeper in the community. It goes to so many different places in the community. How did it come about? And how did you find Must? Like, you could have gone to any charity. Right. Tell us the why and how you put it together.
Let's see. I mean, the Soul of Seattle has probably been with me before Seattle. This is things that I was doing when I was a youth in St. Petersburg, working with the Urban League, part of the New Lights program. These are the things that I did in middle school. So even though I'm a chef and I guess recognized worldwide or whatever the case it is, like, it's deeply rooted in me that I'm always helping my community and trying to help the next man and woman up, because I know that without the insistence of my mentors and friends and family, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. There was always someone lifting me up, getting me over the next hurdle. And when I think about the young men that we're supporting with Must, like, these kids, they call them opportunity youth. They have the opportunity to fail, or they have the opportunity to succeed. What they need is a mentor. They need someone to push them. They need someone to inspire them. They need someone that looks like them to give them inspiration to know that they can do it. And so I'm using my platform, because I've made it to a certain level, to make sure that I'm pulling someone else up to the same level that I'm at, so we can go run and grab some more people. So the Soul of Seattle came about for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to bring the Black community here in the restaurant industry together here in Seattle, because as you guys all know, we all work very hard. I've had Kwame come up to Seattle and hang out with me. Mashama and I hung out with each other. Marcus and I hung out. Eric, we caught each other in Miami hanging out. But we are so busy that we never really get the opportunity to actually celebrate and like party and just like enjoy the moment. And so one, I wanted to create an event that can bring the whole community together to, one, recognize the Black restaurants and chefs here in Seattle, because there's not a lot of us, but the community need to be aware of us, that we're here, because we can easily get like left in the shuffle or pushed behind the rug or whatever the case is. So one, I just want to bring some light to them, some notoriety, some publicity, et cetera. Two, I wanted us to raise some money to support these organizations that may not get the same funds that some of these larger organizations receive. And so last year was our inaugural in person. We raised $260,000 on a first year event. We did it in 3 months. It was crazy, but I knew that it had to happen. And this year we thought that we had like a template to follow, because of last year. We like, all right, we're gonna follow that same template. Then March kicked in and pandemic was real. And we were scrambling. We were actually pivoting so much with the restaurants. We were talking about this before. It's just like, I'm just doing everything possible to make sure that I can keep my staff, I can keep the restaurants alive, pay the rent, get the landlord off of me. And I was kind of forgetting about the Soul of Seattle. And I was like, come August or so, I was like, this has to happen again, because I'm struggling and I'm hustling my butt off, but imagine what someone else that looks like me, that don't have the same platform right now, is experiencing. And so I said the Soul of Seattle has to happen again, mainly to focus on these Black restaurants and establishments, to bring them together, bring, again, awareness that they're here, they're struggling, but we're united and we're going to work together. And then I found Must through one of our sponsors. And again, like this is like one of those organizations that kind of like under the radar here in Seattle. They're hustling, they're strapped, green, grassroots, and just doing the thing. And, you know, I just fell in love automatically when I heard their mission. I actually knew the executive director, like, you know, 2 degrees of separation. And we connected. I'm like, man, I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. He left a larger organization that does very well, that probably sees about $30 million in foundation money, support, et cetera, and went to an organization that's going on like a $200,000 budget.
Wow.
And so I just knew this was the organization I needed to support, you know, 25 or so young men that are struggling here, that they put all of their energy into. I had to be there for them. So our goal is to raise $100,000 for them this year automatically. And then the remaining proceeds are going to supporting these Black-owned restaurants and businesses here in the Seattle that are participating this year. So I don't know, it's in me.
It's great. And you know, as I was thinking about the event today, and, you know, I was fortunate enough to met your parents, and I was thinking about it. Mashama's launching a book, and she was talking about her mother, and I was cooking with Kwame's mom last week. So we do it for our parents, but also do it for the kids, right? And thinking about your boy, and he's watching you, he's watching his father doing this. This is amazing, Edouardo. And, you know, we're all trying to figure out this initiative. You help, you know, both, you know, one of the greatest things with this is that we have a moment where if you're a young person or any person coming into the industry, you can actually, for the first time, through something like the Rise, you can actually go to the book, say, I want to stay on the West Coast, here are the people and mentors I can go work with. I want to stay in the South, here are the people I can go and work with. And they all look like us. So I want to stay in New York, whatever it is. That wasn't, we were out there, but we weren't connected like that. And that's one of the things that Usai brought to the book. It wasn't just like the kids I work with at Red Rooster. It could not be that book. It had to be broader. And I love the fact that everyone's not going to stand in the kitchen and end up in the kitchen. So bringing in the Davidas, bringing in the, you know, the Adrian Millers, all these amazing people that add to the space. So it's not just chefs that has mentors. I want to ask you, Eric, like when you were coming up, who was the mentors for you? Like, who did you train under? And is there a West African chef right now that is doing a mentorship? If I want to learn that cuisine, where do I go?
There are a few. I think a few of them are here on this panel, so rightfully so. I was mentored by books. I was mentored by, I think specifically when it comes to the way we transfer recipes, transfer like food history. A lot of it is verbal, especially in like the African household. So, you know, visual as well. So you have to be there, see it. You have to actually taste it. If you need a little bit more of that, then you have to be there physically to actually like, you know, experience that process. So a lot of that was just kind of trial and error and just being in it, you know, being immersed in it, and not necessarily knowing that was a teacher until like, you know, much later on in my adulthood and into my career. But a lot of it was books, you know, reading your books, reading Chef Pierre Tom's, you know, Jessica B. Harris, as you mentioned. There's so many people, and it's cool. One thing that I keep kind of going back to, especially with all the stories that I hear, we talk about the Rise, we talk about the Soul of Seattle. One of my favorite proverbs, an African one, is I am because we are. So, you know, I am, you know, I have to do this or I have to be something, but in addition to that, I have to bring everyone with me to really accomplish that goal. So when it's, you know, you talk about books, for me specifically, The Rise is perfect because you took the time out, you and obviously Osei did an awesome job as well of, you know, reaching out. And like you mentioned, you can go by region to region here in the States and have specific people that look like you that you can reach out to and you know, not only celebrate their food, but you know, celebrate the culture in and of itself. So that right there, I think it's a moving ball. There's a lot of work to do. We all are writing, and it's good that we're all kind of putting out our spins and our philosophies, I guess, behind the food that we're cooking out there. And then the more we do it, hopefully by the next generation, there's a lot more stories to tell and further.
I want to ask you one more thing about, we all do similar things around food, but also different. You work a lot with events. How has events been impacted by COVID, or has it?
It has, yeah. I've been doing, it's selective now. There's been a few weddings. People are still getting married. There's still like life events happening. And you have to be selective with that. So I think for the client side, it's a lot easier because they can have to make it, a smaller events. You're not bringing in 150 people anymore. If you want to get married, it's like, okay, this is the A list and this is the only list. So a lot of people are just getting a lot tighter with that, but it's tough, you got to make sure that one, being safe is obviously a part of the industry, part of the job, but you have to almost kind of be like extra safe. Like, here, watch me put my gloves on, and watch me put my mask on. So there's that kind of thing that you have to kind of assure the guests that, you're doing everything you can to follow protocols. And then just be mindful of the demographic. This could be, some older people, some younger people there. So other than that, it's business as usual. I was supposed to open up a restaurant last year, first public space, and obviously because of the pandemic, that didn't happen, but ended up actually going to Ghana and opening up a space out there. So just staying busy in that regard.
Nice.
And not,
Yes. Accra.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, right in Accra. Thank you. So I'm very, very excited about it. And, didn't have no idea that was going to be the case, I guess, this time last year. But you know what, you hustle and you try to make things work. And then obviously you rely on the folks, like we mentioned, and we've been speaking all day to, it's not just because you're in this position, you can kind of like do things on your own. You still rely. I still call on Kwame. I still call on Edouardo. I still, reach out to all these folks to make sure that at least I have my head on straight as much as possible.
Kwame, one of the biggest challenge that we as Black people know, but we all constantly have to sort of like keep explaining is that our experience are not monolithic, right? This idea of Black food can be, when we started the book, I always feel like music has done it better than us. If you want to know about American music and the Black experience, it's one. You want to know about gospel, bebop, hip hop, what era, funk, pop, rock and roll, whatever, you can just dive into it. And one of the amazing things in your lineage, in your history, your family history, I think it explains it the most, right? So I think I'm gonna get them all right. So there's definitely Jamaica, definitely Trinidad, Nigeria, of course. The Bronx is kind of a country of itself. And then we go to Virginia, and then we go to Texas. And that is Blackness. It's not one thing, right? And that for me is like the most important thing about our journey. Does all those experiences influence you when you cook? Or are you more cooking from, talk to me a little bit of how you build a dish, because all of those places, by the way, are delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. The main, also another one is Creole cuisine. My family's from Louisiana. So close, you're so close. Yeah. But valiant effort though. And it very, very well. I think, when you're creating a dish, it's a fluid process. Creativity is fluid. So it's not like I don't walk in and I'm like, okay, this is exactly how I create a dish every single time. I can be inspired by so many different things, by travel, by talking about, recollecting stories with family, reading, watching something, going out to eat. But my culture is a very, very large, no pun intended, ingredient in my my recipe process, my recipe development. I think it's something that you have to honor, because there's a lot, when you have a platform, you have to speak for the inaudible, as much as you can. There's power with that. And my canvas is food. So with that canvas, I tried to paint that picture with all the different colors and textures of the fabric of our people. And that's as vast as, R&B to hip hop, from, Caribbean food to West African food. You can't just pigeonhole Black food in this small sector. After the slave trade, we went all across the world, and we seasoned every single continent on this planet. So yeah, I try to throw in that culture and throw in that flavor in every aspect of my creativity.
But also in terms of entrepreneurship, because how old were you when you started your catering company? Were you like 29, 30? How old were you when you started the catering company back home?
I was 19. 19. I mean, and in part, it's kind of like what, Mashama was saying. You got to respect the hustle. So like when I was ever thinking that like, oh man, my life this is really hard. I'd be like, my mom raised 2 kids in the 90s as a single mother. Like my life isn't that hard, go and get it. If you got to sell candy on the subway to make this happen, make it happen. And I still try to have that same hustle in anything that I do. I don't think that ever goes away because we see the plight of our people. And if you look at our history, that we're not very far removed from extreme dehumanization, and it's only getting a little bit better, which is great due to visibility. But once you realize that, you're like, why are we sitting down? Like our ancestors fought for us to run right now. So I think that's what keeps me going, honestly.
Great. Mashama, like one of my goals to opening Rooster was what's going to come out of it is even more important than what goes into it, right? And both you and Edouardo, you're now at a point with your restaurants where the sous chefs soon or maybe already started to leave and they're out there and they might, they open their own places. An iconic food town like Savannah, what's the young chef scene outside your restaurant? What is the young Black chef scene? Do they have pop-ups? Do they already own their own restaurants? Who's popping in Savannah? Who should we watch out for? Who is like, young and coming up?
Yeah, there's a couple of young Black people in Savannah that's really sort of like working independently and doing just that, like doing their own pop-ups and stuff like that. But I was just talking to someone today and like Savannah it's an iconic food town, but it's not really a food town where chefs come to be trained, So like you don't have like those restaurants where people are like, okay, I want to train under this person in order to get these skills and cook these food to go and do my thing because that's exactly what I want to do. Like there's a lot of like old guard here, so you don't really have that fresh new kind of like that culinary kind of like life, like a lot of people, like growing up in New York City and cooking in New York City, you worked, you had your shift and you had your shift drink at a local bar and you would commiserate with other chefs around town who work at other restaurants and you would talk about the struggle. But here you don't really, it's just a little different. So there's a lot of sort of small pop-ups, independent work, but I'm really excited about the visibility that I have because people want to come to Savannah and at least to check me out, like to see what's going on. And then you have conversations and then you realize like, there's a lot of the same people and or you admire a lot of the same people and the conversation is expanding really. But I wish there was more young Black folks cooking in Savannah. I wish the representation of my kitchen was way more diverse than it is. But we're moving towards that.
Yeah, and plus your place, that's going to be the draw. That's going to be the stickiness. And now you're opening Austin as well. So you have to reach out to Tavel Bristol. Do you know Tavel?
No, not personally, no, but I've heard of him. Yeah.
You got to like hit him up. He's the nicest. He's amazing. Like
I was with him last week. I was in Austin with him last week. He's a genius. His food is.
Yeah. And he's a former pastry chef. He's in the book. You can hit him up. Where in Austin are you going to be? Tell us about it. When are we opening? What's going on?
All right, so we'll be downtown, 5th and Brazos. It's a hotel. It's a hotel / residence. So we'll have 2 sort of spaces in there. One's going to be like the diner bar, which is really kind of a smaller. The restaurant is broken up into 2 different spaces, and the diner bar is really kind of like this sexy place in front where you like record player and like good comforty kind of food. So there'll be something like that there. And then we have the great market that's in, that is really like our lunch counter, bodega, kind of breakfasty spot, lunch spot. spot. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be cool to be in a new city. It's so far away, which is giving me a little bit of anxiety. So, but at the end of the day, like, I'm super happy about it. And I'm excited about just meeting folks in Austin and getting it popping.
Congratulations, Mashama. Congrats.
Yeah. Hey, I think this is like you hear it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congrats.
Seriously.
I was texting Becca, so give me the news. Becca's texting me. So
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, Shakirah, in SF, like, you know, it's such an expensive city, right? And now with the world upside down, do you think it's going to be affordable? And will that then create an opportunity to young Black chefs come into the city? Or will that stay in Oakland? Is there an opportunity with COVID?
I think you know what? Our folks are hella resourceful and super creative, right? Yeah. So like, we know how to make $1 out of 15 cents. So what we've seen in COVID is some really exciting stuff. We had, Horn Barbecue opening up in Oakland. You have, this amazing Black young baker baking sourdough, like in his like apartment and doing like home delivery. You have folks like setting up an oil drum and like smoking jerk chicken, and then dropping it off to like essential workers. You have a Vegan Mob, which is like the newest, hottest place that's about to open up, run by a young Black restaurateur who grew up in Fillmore. I think, folks pivoted in a way to bring food more directly to people, so people have more direct access to customers and a different relationship, which I think is really exciting. I think it gave people more flexibility to cook whatever the hell they wanted to cook, not what somebody else was telling them what to cook. I think that, of course, this is California, so there's a real preference for ingredients. But what I'm really excited about as a person who grew up in Harlem, we're seeing more Caribbean, more West Indian flavors and restaurants and spaces opening up, which is fantastic. And, on my side, I'm trying to make it so that the spaces that were created, if it's like flexible retail or pop-ups or, giving people more speedier permits, so people have the space in the room to just focus on what they're good at. Do you know what I mean? And I think we need to work collaboratively across our communities to make sure that our young Black chefs have that opportunity and have that space. But don't count the Bay out. Don't count San Francisco out. I just want to say that. I know everybody was like, I know we're joking before. I was like, last Black man, last Black woman in San Francisco, but there's still some of us still here who deeply care about our community. And this is a flashpoint in Black organizing and power building in the Bay Area, especially in San Francisco, that is incredibly exciting. We just, one of our legislators just passed the first reparations council. So now Black folks are getting together to be like, what does reparations look like for our people? And food is going to be part of that, right? Yeah. So like, we're about it. I mean, y'all can come. I mean, I can,
Hey, I will take the list and the
reparations. I'm
right?
coming.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming. You like, y'all got reparations?
Share that list.
I'm in there. Yeah. So
cash, check, whatever.
Right, exactly. So I'm just saying, the Bay is such a food mecca and the birthplace of so many incredible intersections and fusions, but Black people here are so creative and so resilient, and COVID really forced us to do that. And we got to make sure that we're feeding our folks too, because food insecurity has skyrocketed, which I know you all known to see it in the places where you are. So it's kind of like, how do we make sure we're feeding our folks and still fighting for economic justice?
Well, it's really cool to hear that. And Edouardo, should we go to the questions that we have?
Yeah, we have a few questions. But first of all, a couple comments. Mashama, a lot of love is shown right now. I'm saying congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Shakirah, I got a comment that you are a boss.
Yes.
So, I mean, the women.
I think it's the blazer.
Like a boss. Let's find a few questions. So we polled a few people, and we had a lot of good questions out here, and then also put some more new questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to some of you guys. The first question is, as Black chefs, do we feel more pressure to support our food justice in our community versus our white counterparts, our peers? Like, do we feel more pressure?
No.
I don't feel. No.
I don't feel no. I think, you know, like I'm just sort of like just on the aftermath of what like Shakirah just dropped here, and I think it's all real and it's all a part of our lives. Like food justice, eating healthy, eating as a community, sharing our story within the community over food, supporting each other through farm and all of it. I think that that's just a part. That's a part of being Black in America and being Black in the world. And I think that we just kind of walk with that every day. So I don't feel pressured to support anyone that I don't need to support or doesn't represent me or doesn't, you know, want to take care of my community, you know?
You shouldn't feel pressure doing the right thing.
Yeah, I never feel obligated or pressure. This is my responsibility. I just personally feel like I'm doing the right thing. I'm gonna jump to another question. I have a question and I have no vegans on here, but how do we get more vegan representation in our omnivorous restaurants?
I mean, Brian has been holding up the flag.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, Vegetable Kingdom
Terry
is doing amazingly well. So, I mean, that's happening for sure.
I mean, I'll make the comment that, you know, a lot of our cuisine from a historical standpoint is based on vegetables. So I think we are highlighting a lot of our produce and what we grow in the garden and in our farmers. So it is coming to light. I think a lot of restaurants have been like meat centric for the most part. I can be blamed for that. I highlight the pork easily, but I do love vegetables. So I think we're doing our part.
Yeah, I think so too. And also people are asking for it. And I think like we are tuned into that, right? Because we want people to come and enjoy, and more and more folks more and more Black folks are eating in that way, and that just kind of compels me to figure out like how to make those dishes that I grew up with more accessible to people who have allergies, people who are vegan, and across the board. And like you said, Eduardo, vegetables are like at the forefront, you know. But, you know, I'll put a little, you know, ham bone.
Right, we got another question from a young chef. What can you tell a young chef who wants to be in your position, especially after COVID?
Hustle, keep working, study the craft.
Yeah,
study the craft. Yeah, study the craft and know your stuff. I was gonna say something else, but know your stuff as much as possible. So when the time calls to properly braise or saute or sear or, you know what I mean, feed, you know, 100 people, you can do it because you know your math, you know your cuts, you know everything. You feel comfortable. So study the craft. That's number one before everything else comes. Like if you don't know what you're doing, then you're not gonna get paid.
I think Kwame and I had a conversation maybe a year ago or so, but you know, we talked about like putting your head down, but still having your head up, you know, understanding everything that's going on around you, and continuing to study. So being ready when that time comes. Coach, put me in the game, put me in the game. All right, I'm gonna put you in the game.
Yep.
Let's show up, kind of thing.
Let's see what's up. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. All right, I got another question here. When you were funding your restaurant, did you get any roadblocks due to the color of your skin?
You know what? I want to hear Chef Marcus Samuelsson answer this one. Yeah.
Well, I think, first of all, I think that we are historically always have a harder time to find capital. Our generational wealth is not the same. And then also institutional structure of restaurant, first being just restaurant business, that is, banks have said we're not lending. And then on top of that, you then say Black banks or Black. So it's always hard. It's super hard. And for Aquavit, I didn't have to find the money, but I traded, right? I traded lower salary for ownership. And I traded lower salary for a long time for ownership. But it was, for me, it was worth it. So when I did the next restaurant, I knew, okay, I'm not going to trade salary this time because I've done it for a long time. So then it was about understanding what's the right money. I remember when the empowerment zone in Harlem that is there to give money, they want, you know, there was a different administration. They wanted to give us money for Red Rooster. And I remember walking out of there and being able to turn them down because it wasn't the money. That money would have, the restaurant would have been closed. The check was there, but the interest rate was way too high. And it was like one of the biggest victory laps in my life, being able to say no to money. And that gave me confidence. Okay, we're going to be good. It's going to take me a year longer, but we're going to open with the right funding structure. And that's a privilege, right? That's the privilege when you can really figure that out and have the capacity to figure it out. But I think all of this is going to change because I think that because events like Soul of Seattle and because of what's happening right now, we have each other truly, and the media space is growing and what we're doing is growing. And at the same time, just like Shakirah is saying, we are just now starting to hear light end of the tunnel post Corona situations, right? What I mean with that? It's horrible when 500,000 Americans have died, but from our structure, the deals that we're going to get offered and the next generation get offered, real estate in inner cities is going to be cheaper, which means that all our craftsmanship, think about graffiti and hip hop that is essentially pop today. What does that birth out of? It birthed out of ingenuity, urbanism, and incredible craft making, right? Music from the park, art on the walls, coming into the galleries, coming in today to pop culture. Well, guess what? Those food trucks that you were talking about, those amazing events that are happening, they will eventually become the mainstream. I know that Slutty Vegan will be a 4-wall big restaurant in every city at some point, right? And so there's going to be deals to be had. So I think that that's the opportunity. And we did not have that opportunity before. We're not going to have this opportunity without certain dips. So there are going to be opportunities for us, but please hold out for the right money.
For the right one. Yep.
That's the key.
100%.
Totally.
I'm gonna go to another question. This is for Shakirah. I work in the healthcare food service industry. How can we better integrate food from cultures in that community?
That's an excellent question. So I'm going to get a little bit wonky and give you a good resource. So the way that healthcare, we feed our sickest people the worst food in America, which is crazy. And we do the same thing in prisons and schools. So a lot of the way that works is through big contracts with big procurement companies like Cisco and whatnot. The way that you break that apart is to break open those contracts and make sure that whoever's making those decisions, that hospital administrator is, there's something called a good food purchasing policy. So you can go to that website and they have ways in which healthcare industries can integrate better sourcing, more local sourcing, fresher items, connecting with local farmers within that setting. So good food purchasing policy, they have a national network. There's a few school districts in California who have passed that and working with local legislators, but you have to bust open those big contracts and snatch that money from those corporate food holders in order to feed our most sickest folks better. So that's my recommendation for you.
That's beautiful. It's
Well
kind of
said.
what we experienced this year with COVID, where, I mean, we've started feeding our healthcare workers and first responders. We now just got to secure those contracts now continually.
Mm-hmm.
Get it. It's out there. It's out there.
Yeah.
And the thing about those big, I just want to say this really quick. The thing about those big food, industrial producers is that they don't take care of their workers, right? Your food tastes as good as how well you take care of your people, right?
Amen.
So their supply chains are unstable. We saw that, right? Short supply. You go into the grocery store and it's like, there's no milk, there's no meat, so people are starting to, get hip to the game. It's like, oh, wait, I want something that's more secure, more local. It doesn't have to travel as far. So I think that's an incredible opportunity for Black food producers, Black farmers, and Black chefs right now to get in those institutions. And just because it's, it may not be like a beautiful restaurant, but like our kids, our hospitals, a lot of those places is another way to get our food to those plates.
Awesome. Eric, you had something to say on that?
No, I mean, Shakirah knocked it out the park. I was really just echoing everything she mentioned. It's either pay your hospital now or feed the farm. What is it? Sorry, pay your farmer now or feed the hospital later. Is something I was taught, in school, and everything Shakirah mentioned is absolutely spot on. So I'm just really happy she's on this panel and able to kind of share that.
Bravo.
Happy to be of service.
Kwame, I got a question for you here. Do you believe we're making strides in the representation of Black and African dishes on a more global scale, where we can now get the recognition of Michelin and James Beard, et cetera?
If you look at the numbers, yes, but I think we have a long way to go. I think that there's definitely visibility just because of technology right now. We're able to share someone getting murdered by the police. We're able to share a dish made by Michael Elegbede in Nigeria. So there's just visibility. I just think there's still a long way to go with true representation.
I'm getting some questions coming in here. We have some more questions. Okay. Coming from Midwest, I guess this is an open-ended question to everyone. Ohio to the South, and the pilgrimage from me to find some sense of self and the origins of a Black man, as a Black man. Can you share your experiences that brought you to your pilgrimage?
Can you repeat that one?
Yeah, it kind of broken. I think what they're trying to say is, can you explain your journey to finding yourself as a Black chef? I'm assuming. I can probably jump on that. I coming from the South, and all that I knew was Southern food. I thought that my culinary journey was to be a great chef. My culinary journey was gonna lead me down that French path, which all of the culinary schools kind of teach us. And it wasn't until I opened up Solari and actually had a voice. And I think the last chef that I worked for in New York was Chef Jonathan Beno. He said, look, the only way you're gonna make it is you gotta find your voice. And that voice, that statement means so many things. It's your voice as a leader in the kitchen, and also the voice that represent you as a chef, and not what you've taken or learned from everyone else. It's being able to find your identity and being able to express your identity. And so that takes time. I do believe in creating a foundation, learning how to braise, saute, how to broil, how to do all the classic things that we should do in a kitchen, because that translates into any kitchen. But finding your voice takes time. And that can be a year, and that can be 10 years for some people. It's just becoming comfortable with yourself and who you are, and having love and respect for, whatever story you want to tell. Anyone else? I'm gonna jump to another question. Okay. Chefs, what are you doing to assist workers in the restaurant industry affected with COVID job loss? I know Marcus has been working hard. I've seen a lot of posts and inspiring.
Well, I mean, it's a collective. I think all of what we do, we want to help out. I mean, I was very fortunate to be able to also call up on you guys. I always knew that what's going to come out of Rooster, what's going to come out of the rice is better than what goes into it. And I'm clear on that, even if it's unclear to unpack it. But so one of the examples is that, building, we just started a fund, right? Black Business Matters Matching Fund, that we got Uber Eats to help us with giving out grants, and then follow that up with calling up on a lot of you and have you really tell us locally who should get these grants, because I don't know who should get them in Seattle, and I don't know. I'm not going to be the one to say to Nina Camp, well, we think this person should get it in New Orleans. Nina knows 1,000 times better. So, for me, it's really been about, let's raise the money.
Stop.
And then let's locally figure out what Black businesses are hurting the most. And the stories when you call up someone and say, hey, we have a $5,000, it's not a loan, it's a grant. And the first question was, what do I got to do to get it? I think nothing, just sign up. You're going to get nominated and you're going to get the check. It's been amazing. So I thank so many people in the Rise that's contributed to lend their voice to that. And with what you raised and all of us, that's what we're trying to do. We know there's a bridge here until the fall, and then hopefully we're going to get back in. But for a lot of people with no voices, that's their life saving, and maybe their family's life saving, maybe their cousin's life savings, and they're not coming back. So that anonymous death of Black businesses, I have so much fear for that, because we have come so far up until December or January of last year. And it just makes me really nervous when I think about it. So whoever can help out, whoever can support Black businesses, and wherever locally you do it, do it.
Very nice. We have about 5 to 6 minutes left, so I got a couple more questions before our panel calls it a night. I know it's getting late on that East Coast. Thank you guys. So how are you guys going to prepare for potentially another pandemic? Like, what are you putting in place now? And maybe Mashama, that's a question for you, because you're about to open up another restaurant. Like, how are you preparing for, next iterations of pandemic?
Yeah. I mean, that's a difficult one, because I think, now, I know in New York City, restaurant workers are eligible for the vaccine. And, I think that not so much, it hasn't expanded to Georgia yet. And Austin, I haven't really done the research on that. But I do think we are doing what we've been doing, preparing, keeping people educated, protected, keeping a little bit of money in the bank just to try to help and aid people who need it, who are on our staff. Like, if people call out, we're trying to figure out, and they feel like they have COVID symptoms, we're trying to figure out how to get them money, and so they don't miss a week or 2 weeks of work. So I think we're kind of just gonna play it like that. Because I think you're right, another bout could come, and I don't know, we're just gonna have to pray on it. And that sounds real old school, but I think it's real. It's we're trusting people to be careful when they're not in work and when they are in work, and having these constant conversations about people protecting themselves, and hopefully until they're safe and they're vaccinated. I don't know. I don't even know if that's safe. Meaning I don't know what that means in the long term, a year from now or 2 years from now, but trying to kind of pay attention.
Anyone else want to chime in on that?
I think, Edouardo, you've done a great job of really rethinking your business that actually started pre-COVID, right? You came up with a product line. You really started to think about, how can I diversify? Of course, June Baby and Solaris are the places where you think about as your restaurant home, but even in events like this, right? And just coming out with that line, and I know you were working on it for at least 2 years before that, but that's a great example of connecting with an audience and pushing a brand out there of a product that you're really proud about. Plus, those Chitlin shirts are fly.
Thank you, Chef. Beyond a chef standpoint, we're now business owners. We are brand ambassadors. We are brands ourselves. And so I think we have to look at it beyond the kitchen now. We have to figure out how to diversify our portfolios to make sure that we're not getting punched in the face by another pandemic, that we have other forms of revenue to sustain the businesses so that June Baby can live a year from now, because of we prepared other means of revenue to support, whatever is suffering at this point in time. And so the 2020 taught me a lot. It's things that I already had in the back of my mind and my head that I wanted to get going, but now I knew I had to get it going. From getting items into grocery stores to creating a retail line to having an online presence for our restaurants so that someone in Savannah, Georgia can get our cornbread, someone in New York can get our biscuits, that pimento cheese is found nationwide potentially. That's the goal. So that June Baby will be here 10 years from now. Solari Restaurant will be here 10 years from now. So we got to think about that beyond like the next dish that we're going to create. Like, how we reinventing ourselves and diversifying ourselves from a business standpoint. So,
how you build wealth for our community.
Generational wealth.
Generational wealth, right? We're saying we're doing it for our kids. Like, what are we building? What are we saving? What are we passing on?
Amen.
With that said, I mean, that's Red Rooster right there, right? Celebrating 10 years. You just talked about that. That's an accomplishment this year. I mean, I remember when Rooster just came to Harlem and the impacts that the restaurant had and still has. I mean, you talk about it's the fabric of New York now, not even just like upper Manhattan. It's the fabric of New York City. So just so proud to see it flourish and stay here. So cheers to 10 years and to the next 10 years as well, Chef.
We just opened, thank you. We just opened in Miami for Chef Tristan that worked with us for all those years. We now open in Miami. And it's funny how we all pivoting, right? We were planning around this time last year what the 10-year anniversary party would look like, what the conversations we would be having. None of that. But it became instead opening in Miami. And I said to everybody, actually, it was better. It's just better.
All right, I have one last question for everyone. Shakirah, you can jump in. This is more for the chefs, but if you want to chime in any manner. We have a lot of young culinarians tuned in this evening, and also sent me some direct messages. So, yes, bravo to them. And believe me, a lot of these folks look like us. So it's pretty amazing that we are inspiring. I saw comments of like, Kwame, you are motivation, you are inspiring, amazing. Marcus Samuelsson, I love you. Just like that's been coming in the feeds all night and over the posts that we've been doing. So one of the questions, and I think this is a good way to end at least some chef life advice, one single advice on how to make it or to become a chef. Can you guys give a young chef some advice? And we'll go around the room and we'll end at Marcus, because I'm going to let Marcus close it out from there.
I'll go first. I think it's really important, like you said, Eduardo, to find your voice. And I think you need to strip down that word chef because it means something different to different people. And you need to find your voice in this culinary industry. You don't have to fit into a mold of what people want you to be. Being a chef isn't always just operating a restaurant. If you like to do pop-ups, maybe that's your thing. Maybe you don't want to be in a restaurant. Maybe you want to focus on literature. Maybe you want to get into TV. I don't know. There's so many different aspects of this culinary industry. And when you try to put yourself into a box, sometimes that takes the journey a little bit longer. So I would just say, just stay true to yourself and make yourself happy. Chase your own happiness other than someone else's definition of it.
I'm gonna jump in and just piggyback. I mean, Kwame and I already had this talk many times. It is finding your voice and your identity. And so, yeah, definitely picky on that. But more than anything, have patience. It's a long road. Things just don't happen overnight. You can't go to culinary school and then bounce out and say, I'm a chef. You don't strive for that title. It's something I guess you technically earn, but do you ever need that title? Like, again, find your identity, have patience while you find yourself in that voice, and it'll all come together.
Oh, really quick. I just want to say there's room. Like, we need more Black bakers, jam makers, cheese makers, vintners, brewers. Like, we need Black people making all types of food across the system. We need more Black people farming. So thinking about a producer as well. I'm a master preserver. We need those spaces are hella white. So like, I'm just like, who is the next, like, where's the next Black tartine? Like, I want to go there, right? So I want to make sure that we're expanding our vision and radically imagining all the spaces, because I think we need everybody everywhere. So I just want to lift that up for the producers, you know, for the jammers.
Nice.
June Baby's cornbread.
No, it's so very true. There you go.
Yeah.
No, I'll echo everything everyone said. I mean, there's an eco space. It's not just being a chef. There's so many things and facets, and things that you can combine as well, to really kind of, you know, set your claim. So anticipate the work. It's a lot of work within the industry, no matter what you end up settling on, but enjoy it as well. I think if you can find that perfect kind of Venn diagram of work, hustle, love, and enjoyment, and you can kind of put it all together in the center, then you success. So yeah, don't necessarily look for the title specifically. Find something that you enjoy to do, that you don't feel like is work, but, you know, anticipate the work as well.
I think we lost Mashama. She might pop back on, but I'll turn it over to you, Marcus.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was fanboying over here. I took a picture of this because I want to document this. This is, for me, this is like climbing Mount Everest, because when I dreamt of what the Rise could look like was us having a community to talk to one another. And the fact that we're here now celebrating each other. So we've achieved something as collective. And that's why I wanted to take a moment and share this. And I know this will only continue. I know that Kwame's event that he's building this summer in Virginia, for example. So now there's 2 stops. You can do something here in the earlier of the year. You can go to Virginia this summer. And I really say that because this is amazing. We have to acknowledge what we're doing as a collective. And as a Black person not growing up in America, we always look, and Eric knows this, and Kwame knows this also, outside. We look at America and draw inspiration. So I know now Black people all over the world is looking at this, if it's possible in America. So that Soul of Berlin might happen because of somebody tuned in, like look like us, or Soul of Moscow, or whatever it might be, right? And so it's really hard sometimes to understand how vast America is and the inspiration of what we're doing. So I just be passionate. I've cooked all my life since I was 17 years old, since I left to Japan, and I'm here. And I'm more passionate about where we are and cooking today than I was when I was 17. So I'm really, really excited about it. And I want to thank Edouardo for really setting this table. It's absolutely amazing. And congratulations to your team. Thank you for having me. This is great, Edouardo. Well done.
Thank you, guys. Mashama, I know you fell off. Did you want to say anything? If no pressure.
No. I'm thank you. I know you. I don't know what's going on with my internet, but I'm gonna upgrade as soon as I get off this call. I just want to echo all the things that were said. I think you have to come from a place of honesty. I think you have to recognize like the things that you want to achieve and also believe that you can achieve them. Like one of the things that I knew that I needed to do was really in order to find my voice, shave down all the noise and figure out like what was going to continue to inspire me. And I think that that's important. And I think coming from a place of Blackness and a place of truth, the things that inspire me, and I know I needed to cook from those places. So if I'm reading about places in Africa or Brazil or, even, Seattle, you know what I mean? Like, I know that those places, I'm looking for myself in those references. And those are the parts that keep me going and keep me wanting to bring the next generation up behind me. So I do believe that you got to kind of like listen to yourself and go from there. Yeah.
Very nice. I miss you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule. Shakirah, welcome to the family. I know you were already connected in so many different ways, but it was so good to hear your voice. I'm going to jump to live off of the Zoom, but I just wanted to give you guys a round of applause. The audience should definitely give you guys a round of applause for all the knowledge and time that you guys put into them tonight. And I look forward to getting on the plane and hanging out with you guys, going back to the Gray, hanging out with Eric, throwing it up, hanging out with Kwame in LA, in San Francisco, Red Rooster, here I come. I love it, and I'm going to see you guys soon, okay?
All
so
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks,
you guys. Stay on. My audience, stay there. I got a little bit more to say. Give these guys a round of applause, please.
All right. Shakirah, you're amazing. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. My
pleasure, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Y'all are incredible. My family lives in Georgia, so I'll come in and visit you. Hopefully, when things are a little less hyphy. But Eric, your inspiration. Like, I just love how sincere you are and so thoughtful. And Chef Marcus, for bringing us all together in this incredible project. And you've just been, Face has launched 1,000 ships. So we're really grateful for your vision. So this is
honestly, just to echo that for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Marcus.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So what a lovely, lovely panel this evening. You guys get out there and support this beautiful panel that you guys saw this evening. These are some of my amazing friends. I gave them a call and they said, heck yeah, we're gonna stop what we're doing. I know Mashama was working today on the line and she had to stop and join in. So I'm really thankful for her. And just really appreciative that these folks can share their stories with you and be so candid and just have a good time. This is just a conversation, and this is what I miss, and I'm glad that I was able to share it with you guys. So I encourage you guys to support them. When you get out ready to travel again and able to travel, get out to Savannah and go to the Gray, purchase their books, and spread the word, okay? What I would like to say now is that the Soul of Seattle would not be happening this year if it wasn't with the support of our fiscal sponsor, Northwest Harvest. Northwest Harvest was established in 1967 when Seattle community leaders formed a social justice organization committed to addressing hunger. A little over 3 years ago, I formed a relationship with the CEO, Thomas Reynolds, and from there, my personal mission to root out hunger with Northwest Harvest was established. I would like to share a quick video with you guys with Northwest Harvest.
I'm Thomas Reynolds, the CEO of Northwest Harvest. There's a lot of people hungry here in Washington State, and Northwest Harvest exists so that there can be equitable access to nutritious food for everyone here in Washington State. Hunger is really not a food problem, it's a fairness problem. Northwest Harvest works on justice, equity, fairness. We work in the policy areas, we work on distributing food. We really focus on fresh fruits and vegetables. We really want to see everyone in Washington State thrive, have the healthy foods that they need to feed themselves and their families, and have the opportunity to participate in Washington State. I really believe in the idea of Soul of Seattle. This year, especially during COVID-19, we have seen an extraordinary number of small businesses lost. I hope not lost forever. The vast majority of BIPOC-led small businesses have really struggled or have lost the chance to operate. The Soul of Seattle creates the opportunity for Black, Indigenous, and people of color-led restaurants to participate, to bring awareness to the work that they're doing, to celebrate what they are contributing to community, and I think that's really important. With the absence of Black and Indigenous and people of color-run restaurants, Seattle would be essentially flavorless. The Soul of Seattle brings about awareness to the greatness of these restaurants and the meaningfulness of them on our community. Edouardo and I got together first over a cup of coffee. We just exchanged ideas on what we thought Seattle should be like. We talked about food, we talked about fairness, we talked about justice. And we realized that we wanted to create meaningful opportunities for all of the people in Seattle and the Seattle area to engage in making Washington a more fair place to be. 42% of families who are people of color are experiencing food insecurity this year. Across Washington State, Northwest Harvest is rushing fresh fruits and vegetables, healthy proteins, grains, the things that people need to thrive. You know, that's a really key focus of our work this year. We're also working on policy. In about 170 countries around the world, food as a right exists, is codified into law and constitution. That's not true here in the United States. Northwest Harvest is working on making sure food is a right so that everyone can participate in acquiring the nutritious food that they need to thrive. Soul of Seattle has far surpassed my expectations. It's been a brilliant time to celebrate food, culture, community, and fairness. Let me just say, you have one more chance to give to the Soul of Seattle to help ensure that great food is celebrated, restaurants are filled, and the community and community members are able to realize their dreams as they think about the way forward. Won't you give today?
Awesome. That's Northwest Harvest. You guys can find out more information about Northwest Harvest at northwestharvest.org. So thank you, Northwest Harvest, for having our back and supporting us this year for the Soul of Seattle. And again, I'd like to thank our sponsors who have been so generous with their financial contributions in supporting our great causes. And thank you to our second-year key sponsors, the Satterberg Foundation and Amazon. The Satterberg Foundation has a mission to strengthen our communities by promoting a just society and a sustainable environment. And Amazon, who's working to foster equity, inclusion, and opportunities for communities of color and small business. So thank you guys for your continual support and your second-year support this year. Thank you so much. And our contributing sponsors, please visit our website to support and be aware of all of our supporters this year. There's other ways that you guys can support the Soul of Seattle and our mission and help us raise funds. We have a beautiful, beautiful shop page that we've created, a curated wine box with Black-owned wineries that we're featuring. We have our Black-owned chef box with chefs throughout the city that you can get some non-perishable items that we've created that you can support them. Money goes directly to these locations. We have our voucher book put together in collaboration with the Intentionalists, supporting more restaurants and businesses throughout the city. Again, these vouchers can be used for discounts and coupons for items in these locations. And again, we have other beautiful items that we'll be listing on our shop page throughout the month. And last but not least, we have an hour or so before our auction close, so we have some beautiful items that you guys can bid on. Make sure you get your bid on. And then check out the remaining items, the remaining events that we have throughout the month. I can't even get the words out, I'm just still so excited. Next week, we will be visiting the kitchen here, doing a demo with Chef Wayne Johnson as our host, Chef Christy Brown, and Chef Trey of Jerk Shack. And we're just gonna have a good time. We're gonna show you how to cook some amazing dishes that they will be preparing. You can also support them by purchasing meals directly from their locations. Just consider it a dinner and a show, and we're gonna see you back here next week. And then to close out the month, we're gonna be finishing with a DJ party, a dance party with the one and only Questlove. So please get your tickets. We're going to end just like we did last year with a big old party and a big old bang, even if it's virtually. So I want to say thank you guys for tuning in this evening. Thank you for all of your support. Get out there and be aware and support those small businesses. Thank you guys. Good night.